Morning is not just a time on the clock. Morning is a spiritual courtroom. And whoever speaks first often sets the agenda for the day. Many people wake up and check their phone. But warriors wake up and check the spirit. Because battles are not won by reaction. They are won by preparation. Morning is not a casual moment. It is a spiritual gate. And gates are never neutral. Gates are places of permission, authorization, and control. Whoever understands the power of gates understands dominion. When you wake up in the morning, you are not merely transitioning from sleep to activity. You are stepping into a realm where decisions are already waiting to be enforced. The morning decides the tone, the direction, and the outcome of the day. Because the morning is when spiritual traffic is highest. What you allow at that gate will flow into every hour that follows. Many people think battles begin when problems appear, but that is not true. Battles begin long before manifestation. By the time an issue shows up physically, it has already passed through the gate of time unchecked. That is why the morning is critical. The morning is when destinies are negotiated, when permissions are granted, and when spiritual seeds are planted. If you rise without awareness, you may unknowingly authorize what you will later spend the day fighting. Silence in the morning is not rest, it is vulnerability. The absence of intentionality creates room for intrusion. Nature understands this principle better than people do. That is why the dew settles early, the birds sing early, and the light appears early. Everything strategic moves early. Only the careless assume that the day will arrange itself favorably. The wise understand that days are commanded, not discovered. Fear often tries to greet people in the morning because fear understands timing. It knows that if he speaks first, it shapes perception. A fearful thought at dawn can echo throughout the day, influencing decisions, reactions, and expectations. That is why fearless warfare prayers are not optional. They are defensive and offensive measures combined. You are not praying because you are afraid. You are praying so fear never gets the microphone. The morning gate responds to authority, not emotion. You can wake up tired and still command the day effectively if you understand alignment. Alignment is the position of your spirit before activity begins. When you speak from alignment, your words carry legality. Heaven responds to legality, not desperation. So when you rise and declare truth, you are not making noise, you are issuing instructions. Every day comes with invisible scripts. Some are written by purpose, others by opposition. If you do not rewrite the script early, you may end up acting out a version of the day that was never meant for you. This is why prayer in the morning is an act of rewriting. You are saying this day will follow divine order, not random events. And order is not passive, order is enforced. The morning also determines spiritual sensitivity. What you tune into early determines what you hear clearly later. If the first voice you honor is fear, confusion, or distraction, clarity becomes difficult. But when the first voice you honor is truth, discernment sharpens. Suddenly, you recognize what to accept and what to reject. This is how warriors move through the day with precision, while others move by trial and error. You must understand this deeply. Days are obedient entities. They respond to instruction. They may appear chaotic, but chaos is often the result of absent leadership. When leadership shows up early, chaos rearranges itself. This is why fearless people don't rush into the day, they rise into it. They take their position before demands begin to shout. Morning prayers are not about length, they are about jurisdiction. Even a few minutes spoken with authority can seal hours of victory. The goal is not to impress heaven, but to align with it. When alignment is achieved, resistance loses leverage. Things don't stop existing, but they stop having control. So when you wake up, understand where you are standing. You are standing at a gate that decides access. Speak wisely, speak boldly, speak intentionally. Because once the gate is set, the day follows. And when the gate is governed by courage, truth, and authority, the day has no choice but to comply. Fear is often misunderstood because people treat it like a feeling that must be avoided, suppressed, or prayed away without understanding its language. But fear is not merely an emotion. Fear is a signal, and every signal exists to communicate information. When fear shows up, it is not announcing defeat, it is announcing proximity. It is proof that something significant is near, something valuable is at stake, something powerful is trying to emerge. Fear does not waste energy on empty people or empty futures. If fear were only weakness, it would attack everyone equally, but it does not. Fear targets purpose. It reacts to calling. It responds to potential. The intensity of fear often matches the importance of what lies ahead. This is why moments of transition, growth, and elevation are usually accompanied by fear. Not because danger has increased, but because relevance has. Fear shows up when you are about to cross a boundary you have never crossed before. It appears when you are moving from familiarity into responsibility. The mind labels this sensation as threat, but the spirit understands it as exposure. You are stepping into visibility, and visibility attracts resistance. That resistance announces itself as fear. The mistake many people make is responding to fear with retreat instead of interpretation. Fear should never be obeyed blindly. It should be examined. When fear speaks, the right question is not how do I escape this, but what is this fear reacting to? Because fear does not create opposition, it reveals it. It points to areas where growth is required and authority must be asserted. Fear often exaggerates consequences to discourage obedience. It magnifies uncertainty and minimizes capacity. But fear has no creative power of its own. It can only distort what already exists. It takes real challenges and inflates them into imagined disasters. That is why fear feels convincing. It borrows facts and rearranges them to produce intimidation. A fearless person is not someone who never feels fear. It is someone who refuses to let fear decide. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of response. When fear sends a signal, courage decodes it and acts anyway. This is where warfare begins. Not against circumstances, but against internal permission. Fear tries to sit on the throne of decision making. If allowed, it would dictate pace, shrink vision, and delay obedience. That is why fear must be confronted early, decisively, and spiritually. You don't argue with fear emotionally, you override it with truth. Truth has weight. Fear only has volume. When fear surfaces in the morning, it is strategic. It wants to set the emotional climate of the day. A fearful beginning often leads to cautious decisions, delayed actions, and missed opportunities. But when fear is challenged at the start, its influence weakens as the day progresses. Addressed early, fear loses momentum. Fear is also evidence of stretching. Muscles hurt when they grow. Minds resist when they expand. Spirits tremble when they step into higher responsibility. Fear is the noise of internal systems adjusting to new demands. It is uncomfortable, but it is not lethal. It is a sign that you are not stagnant. Ignoring fear does not make it disappear. Understanding it strips it of control. When you realize that fear is reacting to what you carry, not what you lack, your posture changes. You stop seeing yourself as threatened and start seeing yourself as significant. This shift alone weakens fear's authority. Fear thrives where identity is uncertain. When you are unsure of who you are, fear can negotiate. But when identity is settled, fear has no bargaining power. It may speak, but it will not rule. This is why spiritual alignment is essential. Alignment anchors identity, and anchored identity resists intimidation. Every signal demands a response. The response to fear is not panic, delay, or silence. The response is declaration, movement, and action. When fear signals, it is time to rise, not retreat. Time to pray with authority, not plead. Time to advance with wisdom, not withdraw. So when fear shows up, don't be ashamed. Don't be surprised. Don't be paralyzed. Recognize the signal. Something important is ahead. Something valuable is near. And you are being invited not to run, but to rise. Prayer was never designed to be an expression of helplessness. It was designed to be an exercise of authority. When people reduce prayer to begging, they unknowingly confess powerlessness. And powerlessness was never the posture assigned to a believer. True prayer does not come from panic. It comes from position. It is not a cry of defeat, but a declaration of jurisdiction. You are not approaching prayer as a victim hoping for mercy. You are approaching prayer as a steward enforcing order. Begging assumes distance. Warfare assumes alignment. In warfare, you do not shout because you are unsure. You speak because you are certain. Prayer at its highest level is not about convincing heaven to act. It is about aligning yourself with what heaven has already decided. When alignment is achieved, enforcement becomes natural. Authority flows where order exists. Many people pray emotionally and wonder why nothing shifts. Emotion alone does not move systems. Authority does. Authority is released when truth is spoken from the right standing. That is why prayer must be grounded in understanding. When you know who you are, your prayers change tone. You stop asking timid questions and start issuing clear instructions. Not instructions to heaven, but instructions to circumstances that are out of order. Warfare prayer understands that resistance is not a sign of rejection. It is proof of impact. Opposition exists because territory matters. If nothing was at stake, nothing would fight back. So when you pray and encounter resistance, you do not retreat. You intensify alignment. You don't shout louder. You stand firmer. You don't repeat words mindlessly. You speak with precision. Begging focuses on what is missing. Warfare focuses on what is authorized. One posture looks at lack, the other looks at mandate. When you pray as warfare, you are conscious of assignment. You understand that certain outcomes are your responsibility to enforce. Not everything changes automatically. Some things shift only when confronted by rightful authority. Prayer as warfare also understands timing. You don't wait for chaos to mature before you respond. You address it at the root. That is why morning prayers are strategic. You are not reacting to a bad day. You are preventing disorder from gaining ground. You are setting boundaries early, declaring what will be allowed and what will not. In warfare, clarity matters. Vague prayers produce vague outcomes. When you know what you are enforcing, your prayers become targeted. You speak to fear, confusion, delay, and opposition with specificity. Not angrily, but confidently. Confidence does not come from volume, it comes from legitimacy. And legitimacy is the fruit of alignment. Prayer is also warfare because it operates within laws. Just as physical battles have rules, spiritual battles do too. Authority cannot be exercised outside order. That is why integrity, obedience, and alignment matter. When these are in place, prayer becomes less about effort and more about effect. You say less, but more happens. A warrior does not beg an enemy to retreat. A warrior advances until the enemy withdraws. This is the mindset prayer demands. You don't plead with circumstances to improve. You confront them with truth until they adjust. You don't negotiate with fear. You overrule it. You don't ask delay for permission. You command progress. When prayer is reduced to begging, people grow tired because they are trying to move mountains with emotion. When prayer is understood as warfare, people grow bold because they realize the weight was never on their feelings. It was on their authority. This realization restores confidence. Suddenly, prayer is no longer exhausting, it is energizing. Warfare prayer also builds consistency. Begging fluctuates with mood. Authority remains steady. On good days or bad days, enforcement continues. The warrior prays whether emotions cooperate or not. Because prayer is not dependent on how you feel, it is dependent on what is right. So when you pray, check your posture. Are you hoping something changes, or are you enforcing what must change? Are you pleading from uncertainty or declaring from alignment? Prayer was never meant to be a last resort. It was meant to be a first response. Not because you are desperate, but because you are responsible. When prayer returns to its rightful place as warfare, fear loses its grip. Confusion loses its voice, and resistance loses its ground. Because authority, once exercised, does not argue. It establishes order. Authority does not respond to ambition. It responds to alignment. Many desire power, influence, and results. But authority is never activated by desire alone. Authority flows naturally when a person is correctly positioned. Alignment is the quiet but powerful agreement between who you are, what you carry, and how you live. When this agreement exists, authority does not need to be forced. It is recognized. Alignment begins internally before it ever shows externally. When your values, convictions, and actions are consistent, something settles in the spirit. Confusion drains authority. Double-mindedness weakens voice. But when a person is aligned, even their silence carries weight. This is because authority is not volume-based, it is order-based. Order creates legitimacy, and legitimacy commands response. Many struggle to see results, not because they lack prayer, effort, or passion, but because something is out of place. Misalignment can exist even when intentions are good. You can be sincere and still be out of order. And sincerity without alignment produces frustration. But when alignment is restored, effort reduces and effectiveness increases. Things begin to respond with less resistance. Alignment gives confidence without arrogance. It produces boldness without noise. When you are aligned, you don't need to announce yourself. Your presence introduces you. Authority recognizes authority. Systems respond to structure. Resistance often fades when alignment is corrected, not when force is increased. This is why standing right matters before speaking loud. Words spoken without alignment may sound spiritual but lack weight. Words spoken from alignment may be few, but they land. Alignment turns ordinary speech into enforcement. It is not the elegance of words that moves reality. It is the legality behind them. Alignment also brings clarity. When you are aligned, decisions become sharper. Discernment improves. You know what to engage and what to ignore. Authority is wasted when it is misdirected. Alignment ensures that power is applied precisely, not emotionally. Precision is what distinguishes authority from aggression. There is a reason confusion often precedes powerlessness. Confusion is a symptom of misalignment. When internal order is disrupted, external command weakens. But when alignment is restored, clarity returns, and with clarity comes confidence. Confidence rooted in alignment is unshakable because it is not based on outcomes, but on position. Alignment also sustains authority over time. Temporary success can be achieved through effort, charisma, or strategy, but lasting authority requires consistency. Alignment keeps authority from expiring. It preserves credibility. When actions reinforce words consistently, trust forms, and trust amplifies authority. Authority without alignment is exhausting. You have to keep proving yourself, explaining yourself, defending yourself. But authority born from alignment rests. It does not rush. It does not panic. It knows timing. It understands restraint. Sometimes authority is proven not by action, but by restraint. The wisdom to act only when necessary. Alignment also protects authority from corruption. Power without alignment often leads to misuse, but alignment keeps authority accountable. It ensures that power serves purpose, not ego. When alignment is intact, authority builds rather than destroys. It establishes order rather than chaos. This is why preparation matters more than performance. Performance impresses people. Alignment influences systems. You may impress a crowd, but alignment shifts atmospheres. And atmospheres determine outcomes long after applause fades. When alignment is present, even opposition validates authority. Resistance becomes confirmation rather than discouragement. You understand that reaction is not rejection, it is recognition. Aligned authority does not fear opposition, it expects it. Because order challenges disorder by its mere presence. Alignment also teaches patience. Authority does not rush to prove itself. It understands process. It allows growth to mature. It does not force outcomes prematurely, because premature manifestation without alignment collapses under pressure. But what is built from alignment stands. So before seeking greater authority, seek deeper alignment. Before demanding response, check position. Before increasing effort, restore order. Because when alignment is right, authority activates naturally. You don't chase influence, it follows alignment. You don't fight for voice, it carries. And when you stand right, You don't struggle to be heard. What you say carries weight because you are standing where you belong. Light does not struggle for dominance. It operates by nature. Darkness has never defeated light. Darkness only exists where light is absent. The moment light appears, darkness loses relevance. This is a law, not a wish. It does not depend on intensity, argument, or resistance. Light dominates darkness by default because darkness has no substance of its own. It is simply the absence of illumination. Understanding this truth changes how you approach life, prayer, and conflict. Many people give darkness too much credit. They analyze it, fear it, and sometimes even admire its complexity. But darkness is not powerful. It is passive. It does not advance. It lingers. It does not conquer. It occupies empty spaces. The problem has never been that darkness is strong. The problem is that light was delayed, ignored, or dimmed. Where light is present, darkness has no negotiating power. This is why confidence matters more than noise. Light does not shout at darkness to leave. It shines. The authority of light is revealed through presence, not effort. When you understand this, you stop fighting shadows and start turning on illumination. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. Darkness feeds on attention, but it dies in exposure. Light also reveals. Darkness hides, but light exposes. Not to embarrass, but to restore order. Exposure is not cruelty, it is clarity. When light enters a space, confusion retreats because confusion thrives in obscurity. This is why truth brings freedom. Freedom is not the removal of challenges, it is the removal of blindness. In spiritual terms, light represents truth, alignment, clarity, and authority. Darkness represents ignorance, fear, confusion, and deception. When truth is introduced, deception collapses. It may resist momentarily, but it cannot endure. Resistance is not victory, endurance is. Darkness can resist, but it cannot remain. Many people exhaust themselves trying to fight darkness directly. They argue with fear, negotiate with confusion, and wrestle with uncertainty. But the most effective response is illumination. When understanding increases, fear weakens. When clarity increases, confusion fades. When truth is spoken, lies lose their structure. This is why fearless people focus on light, not darkness. They do not deny the presence of challenges, but they refuse to magnify them. They understand that magnification is a form of worship. What you magnify gains influence. When you magnify darkness, it feels overwhelming. When you magnify light, darkness feels temporary. Light also works progressively. Dawn does not appear all at once, yet darkness steadily retreats. This teaches patience. You do not need instant results to prove victory. Consistent illumination produces inevitable dominance. Every step in truth, every decision in alignment, every declaration spoken with clarity increases light's reach. Darkness often pretends to be complex to intimidate. Light is simple. Truth is simple. Clarity is simple. Complexity is often a disguise for deception. When light arrives, unnecessary complexity dissolves. Things become clear. Paths become visible. Decisions become easier. This is why light brings peace. Not because problems vanish, but because direction is restored. Light also gives courage. Fear thrives in the unknown. When light reveals what was hidden, fear loses its imagination. Many fears survive only because of uncertainty. Once exposed, they shrink. What seemed overwhelming in the dark becomes manageable in the light. You must understand that light does not wait for permission. It does not ask darkness if it can enter. It shows up. And when it does, darkness adjusts or disappears. This is the posture you must carry. You are not waiting for conditions to improve before you stand in truth. You stand in truth and conditions respond. This is why confidence rooted in truth is unstoppable. It does not depend on approval, mood, or circumstances. It depends on reality. And reality always favors light. Lies can travel fast, but they collapse quickly. Truth may appear quiet, but it stands permanently. So when darkness tries to intimidate you, remember this law. You are not fighting an equal opponent. You are introducing a superior reality. You are not overwhelmed. You are under illuminated. Increase light and dominance follows naturally. Stand in truth Walk in clarity. Speak with understanding, because wherever light shows up, darkness does not argue, negotiate, or win. It lives.